Hey YouTube, what is up? Budsterbrown back with my Five Nights at Freddy's movie review, which has been making bank at the box office, and honestly, good for them. Five Nights at Freddy's has always been an underdog, so the movie being successful feels like it's paying homage to the first game's breakout fame. And no spoilers, by the way, just throwing that out there. Now I get it, you guys have places to be, things to do, which is why I've timestamped this whole review, so if there's a particular thing you're looking for, you can just skip to it. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd recommend it. The channel's content is really heating up. We just posted the review and ranking of the entire Friday the 13th franchise. I got some podcastle ideas cooking up. I also have another series review coming your way that's gonna hit you at either the end of this month or the beginning of the next month. I'd love to see you guys stick around, so if you're interested, hit that subscribe button. It's really not that hard. However, all the same, I'm just happy you're here in the first place, and thank you so much for watching my review. Okay, so what's my experience with the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise? I'd say I'm a fan. Not a massive fan, but a fan nonetheless. I've watched more FNAF lore explanations than I can count on YouTube, and I've read 2 books, one of which I've cited as my favorite young adult novel. While I've watched plenty of Let's Plays of these games, I ironically haven't actually played them that much myself, with me getting to night 4 of the first game being my grand achievement, and after that, I never really touched the games. The first game was just literally too scary for me, as the anticipation of a jump scare had me turn into a nervous wreck and shut the doors way too early, causing me to run out of power, leading me to take a big fat L. So while I would say I'm not a massive fan of the games, I would say that I am a Five Nights at Freddy's enjoyer, and I probably know more about the franchise than an average Joe. However, my knowledge is nowhere near that of a hardcore fan. Enough delaying though. Let's get right into Five Nights at Freddy's, the movie. The basic gist of this plot is that a security guard named Mike is down on his luck, as his annoying aunt is trying to take custody of his sister. Mike, being her guardian, is forced to take a crappy job at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, which is pretty much an abandoned Chuck E. Cheese-esque place that has animatronics roaming around the halls if he is going to keep custody of his sister, Abby. While working there, Mike starts piecing together some of the dark history associated with the establishment, finding out that it might actually have some overlap with the disappearance of his younger brother years prior. As the nights go on, things get progressively out of whack as the animatronics get more aggressive and start posing a threat to his younger sister Abby. With that summary out of the way, let's get right into what worked about this movie. The thing that impressed me the most was actually the production design. The set of Freddy Fazbear's was worn out and grungy, accurately reflecting the aesthetics of the source material. The lighting felt straight out of the game while also being elevated to a cinematic level that I'm pretty sure creator Scott Cawthon was more than thrilled with. The animatronics themselves actually look really good, outside of a couple moments where they're moving in a weird way and the CGI becomes pretty noticeable. But overall, I was very impressed with the visual, set design, cinematography, and special effects, especially considering the limited budget of $20 million. Another thing that was pleasantly surprising to me was how faithful this movie was to the games. When it comes to video game or book adaptations, things tend to get lost in the sauce once the studios take a hold, but however, I think Scott Cawthon actually retained much more control over this project than I initially thought. The opening credit sequence uses Atari-like graphics that showcases some of the horrible atrocities that took place with these animatronics, which is not only a perfect tone setter, but a clever homage to the games that doesn't even feel forced at all. And I know this ties back to the set design, but the way the animatronics look and move feels so faithful to the game, and the setting looks dang near perfect. While some details might have been changed here or there, this is a very authentic Five Nights at Freddy's experience to my knowledge, that introduces the game's lore in a digestible way to audiences without feeling alienating to longtime fans. Lastly, I think Five Nights at Freddy's has some really effective scares, with one scene in the middle being particularly great, a highlight of the movie. While I can't say that I was gripping my seat with fear like I did with the first game, I was very invested in the movie and found myself having a slightly elevated sense of anxiety. The scariest thing about this movie though is the dark history that took place at the pizzeria, which churns my stomach more than any animatronic jump scare ever could. However, the creepy atmosphere and tone is severely undercut by the awkward humor that plagues the whole movie. I won't say that there was ever a super jarring tonal shift, but the movie felt like it had a hard time committing to a tone in the first place. It doesn't really fully commit to the humor and campiness, but they also don't go all in on the dark and disturbing subtext. While certain humorous bits certainly landed, and as did the scary ones, I felt the movie would have been much better served if they had stuck with a consistent dark tone and went all in on the horrific elements of Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. That being said, I understand that children are a big demographic for the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, and barring them completely with an R rating or an extremely dark tone wouldn't really be fair or smart. The issues aren't exclusively tonal though, as I find this movie suffers from some pretty sloppy writing. They have this Scooby Doo Reveal with a certain character in a golden bunny suit, and it feels super lazy. If you're a fan of this franchise, I could imagine when that character shows up that you're like, okay, I guess you're here for some reason. Gotta check off that Five Nights at Freddy's lore checklist after all. It's not built up to almost at all, the reveal is terrible, and I couldn't help but feel this character should have been saved for a sequel as opposed to being shoehorned into this movie. The character motivations also don't feel super organic, as they keep making these stupid, dumb horror movie decisions that had me scratching my head. The big one is that Mike does indeed come back for all 5 nights at Freddy's, when night 3 realistically should have been his last dance at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. To be fair, the movie does try to justify why he would stay for all 5 nights, but the reason doesn't feel compelling, satisfying, or convincing. On top of that, there's this cop named Vanessa, and she freaking sucks. She is apparently from one of the games, but I pulled out of the FNAF lore after the game's sister location, so I know pretty much nothing about her, other than what this movie presents me. She has some of the most misguided decisions in the entire movie, and on top of that gets on my freaking nerves every time she has these hypocritical criticisms of Mike. Seriously, every time she appeared on screen, I was just like, go away! The dialogue in the movie, while not terrible, is also really stock, with no real weight or cleverness to any of the lines delivered. The writing has a real fan-made quality to it that would impress me if it was a fan film, but it's not a fan film. This is a $20 million studio-funded movie. To be fair, I think the subpar line delivery could also be adding to the reason why the dialogue doesn't seem that great, because the acting in this movie is also not that good. Josh Hutcherson from Hunger Games fame plays Mike, and he is just way too mellow throughout this whole movie. When crazy things start to happen, he just kinda acts calmly and accepts it like, okay, well I guess that happened. Guess these animatronics are just alive and walking around and possessed by ghosts. That's normal. Like, this is some serious supernatural garbage that's going around, and he's just like, another day, another dollar. He brings zero energy to the role, and it feels more like he's wondering how his career led him to be the star lead of Five Nights at Freddy's, the movie. None of the other performances feel like anything special, but some are better than others. Matthew Lillard shows up for a little bit and does a pretty good job playing a classic character in the franchise. The little girl playing Mike's sister, Abby, actually does a really good job, especially accounting for the fact that it's a child performance. Other than that though, the acting once again feels like it has a fan-made quality to it, which is not terrible, but not great. Overall, I'm quite mixed on this movie. On one hand, Five Nights at Freddy's really suffers from poor writing and a lack of a clear tone that undermines both the humor and the scares. The ending villain feels forced and unnatural, and the performances and character motivations really leave something to be desired. On the other hand, I had a lot of fun watching this movie. I saw this movie twice, once with my teenage brother Tay and cousin Kyle from the Podcastle. We were roasting and toasting this movie the whole time, making fun of the shoehorned in YouTube cameos, poking fun at the lore every chance we got, while also appreciating the visuals, fun Easter eggs, and being super impressed by the production design. The second time I watched this movie was with my 12-year-old brother Archer, who is realistically the target demographic for this movie. He really enjoyed this movie, and not in the somewhat ironic fashion that I did on my first viewing. Archer laughed at all the jokes, was excited at the cameos, jumped at all the scares, and was genuinely sitting at the edge of his seat during all of the tension-filled parts of this movie. Having two viewings made me realize that while the older crowd might find things to pick at and make fun of this movie for, this is the perfect introductory horror movie for a younger audience that eases them into the genre. Its lack of commitment to a single tone helps the movie never get too scary while also pushing the boundaries of what these kids are usually watching. The animatronics are scary, but just humorous enough that it relieves the tension so that the little ones don't start crapping their pants. Beyond it being a great beginner's horror movie, the film has great production design, with everything feeling tangible and effectively creepy. The adherence to the source material is commendable, with there being plenty of moments stripped from the games that longtime fans will be excited to see portrayed on the big screen. However, the aforementioned tonal issues and writing blunders really brings this movie down for me. However, I can't say I was bored, as I enjoyed myself both times I watched it. If you're a Five Nights at Freddy's fan, let's be real. You've already watched this movie. It really seems tailored towards FNAF fans, and if you're one of them, you'll probably really enjoy this movie. Maybe even love it. If you're just a fan of horror in general though, this movie's probably not going to do much for you. I'm going to bring back the Sonic Adventure 2 ranking system that I used in my Friday the 13th review, meaning that Five Nights at Freddy's earns itself a solid C rank.
Just made it.
Well guys, I hope you enjoyed the review. Also, please comment. I love hearing what you guys have to say. Are you going to watch this movie? Have you seen this movie? Did you disagree or agree with my assessments that I made in my review? Do you guys want to see more FNAF content or something else? Let me know in the comments down below, as I'm willing to tailor my content for those who comment on my videos and let me know what they'd like to see. Once again, like and subscribe for more great content and join the Budsterbrown squad. Other than that, it's been a pleasure talking with you all, and I will see you later.